Okay, here we go. RBA Tuesdays. What are we at? 10:20 here. So just getting into Asia session at the moment. Just sort of fix up a few things in the chart. Yep. Uh, so start off with DXY because obviously this is the sort of main driver of things at the moment. We're seeing that second push down yesterday, sort of coming into Asia. Like you had that early sort of push up. Actually, this is on the 4 hour, but you can see there's almost two efforts going up here because obviously one wicked down and then it filled up and then finally sort of reversed and broke down underneath that sort of previous sort of daily support area had marked out. They're rejected again. So technically, this has now put in a lower high. I don't really sort of buy it. I think it's more just sort of like sucking out as much as they can before they really sort of break to the downside here. I think this, to me, I was actually sort of looking at a time. I'm like, yep, okay, it's going to fill this wick. 104.50. Main target is down here, 104s. So let's just put that's the price target I'm looking for. Going down here. So I think these are just little sort of flare-ups, and as of which I've pretty much just sort of been trying to sort of sell into this sort of, any sort of little rally up on the dollar strength. And if you look at sort of what I was saying on the weekend, um, where we started the week just here. I was saying that look, any sort of drive up now, because you've given up this main trend that sort of came through here, you've given up this horizontal, you've got this failed bear flag. To me, that's three sections of the market that are saying sort of, what we wanted to try and sort of hold these areas, we haven't held them. Let's try and sort of minimize our losses and get out with what I can. So they rally it up a little bit, but then the market bang closes into it, bang closing into it again now. Little gap up this morning. So I haven't actually been watching the gaps in the morning because there was a while there where there was a great indicator for DXY where it was basically it was running in the direction of the gap, but obviously give those nice little closes. So we can see here a little gap up previously. The rest of the time looks pretty sort of flat with it all, but we've had a little gap up this morning. It's obviously being sold into straight away, which is giving a little sort of push down here. So at the moment, yet another sort of lower high on this sort of swing down here. But, if you get back up above 105.40, 105.10 now, then you could say, okay, maybe it's going to try sort of rally up here a little bit. I can't see what's going to be the catalyst for that. We don't have any news this week, or any major news, I should say, from the US. So just have a quick look over. Yeah, nothing today. No sort of no high level news at all. I mean, on Friday, 3:01 a.m., we got the 30-year bond auction. We've got unemployment claims on the Thursday night. Apart from that, that's pretty much it. Like it's a very quiet week. Apart from the RBA and also the BOE, there's not really a lot of sort of market moving news. And obviously, those both of those don't really tend to sort of move DXY that much. Obviously, Aussie's not part of the DXY, and BOE just doesn't really seem to affect the DXY so much. So you might get a little bit of a flare up depending on what they do with it all. But yeah, not massive sort of like, okay, landscape's changed. Let's all start buying US dollar again, sort of pumping up here. So at the moment, you've just got to fall back on the technicals, and the technicals are saying, look, we have put in a lower high technically here, but you are still seeing these, sorry, a higher low, but we are still seeing these lower highs come in here. So if you push across this sort of previous high from yesterday, so this little zone through here, then you'd be sort of maybe looking up to some sort of potential little range play up along to this zone here. But as I said, I'm still looking for a break to the downside here. So, each time take out those lows there, that'll sort of say, look, I said the same sort of thing here. Take out these lows, close down here. This is a perfect setup for me to sort of say, okay, yeah, we're going down to fill that wick, and it reversed straight back up over the top over here. I did actually exit my gold positions, which I'll get to the gold chart in a moment. I sort of put it up and basically traded it to plan, yeah, so it was a perfect trade. But it sort of was coming back into that really heavy resistance area, which we've sort of isolated and sort of picked out a couple of times. Well, actually, a couple of times, a lot of times. So I knew that was going to be sort of pretty tricky to get in there. And pretty much as that did, we also saw this sort of push up top here. Same with Aussie. Aussie came into sort of, that resistance area again, and we sort of moved it up back up over here. So this is what I call cross chart confluence. where it's sort of like you're getting a number of these sort of assets and instruments that sort of trade pretty much in sync. They're all coming into their supports and resistances at the same time. Well, that's kind of making me think that we're going to be seeing across the board shift in risk. So, and that's exactly what we got. We got Aussie down 20 points from the highs. I picked up some more at 66.20. I did want to try and get some a little bit lower, but I'm happy with 66.20 at the moment. I think we're sitting at 66.30, so slightly in profit there, 10 points. I've just added another couple actually now that I sort of say that as well. But yeah, so long story short, DXY, I think we're still sort of grinding down here. I think 104 is the target in the short term. I think sort of underneath yesterday's highs, we'll see a bit more of a complete meltdown. I think this has just trapped a few people out, squeezed them out a little bit more, unable to put in a new high. As of yet, it could still obviously still come up over here, but I think any move up to the top side here is just going to be sold into, and we're either going to see at best a flip and come down to this, and then this, or we're going to see it could potentially drive up here, 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 and then sort of down like this. So I think any sort of move up on US dollars is just going to be used for people to sort of bail out of them at this stage, because there's no market moving news to sort of change what people are thinking. Like, why are you necessarily just going to sort of start going, okay, given all the sort of data that caused this move, why are we all of a sudden just going to sort of swap and push it back up this side? Doesn't really make sense. You need some sort of driver to move this kind of size of a market. So yeah, we'll see how we go, but as I said, still looking downside. 104 is that price target on DXY. Flip across to gold, and this is exactly what I was saying, and you can see it. It's almost sort of like, it was like pre-written. So as I said, watch the weekend review. We break up through this here. We got this large sort of falling resistance here. We saw that this area had been supported a number of times. It was going to come up to the top side here. We were going to tap into here because this, you can see, it's like it's on the chart. You can see how often the market has tried to defend it and hold it down over here. And on the flip side of it, they tried to hold it. It was a support area. Even most recently, it was a very sort of sticky area in that, and that caused that sell down from, a $50 move to the downside. So it's no doubt that sort of like as it comes up here, those shorts that maybe hadn't sort of closed and they were looking for those lower sort of targets around that 2200 were sort of thinking, okay, damn, got to put it up here. So I closed the last of my longs at 29 yesterday, between 27 and 29, but the 29 was the last one. Say 29, sounds a bit better, but 27 to 29, I closed the last of my sort of gold. I got back in, I think low 20s in that this morning, or sort of overnight, but actually, we'll have to sort of check that. But yeah, regardless of it all, you can see the plan through here. Up into this area, sell down. We knew it would happen. Push back up. We haven't made this one yet. We haven't done this leg. This leg is kind of, we're in this moment here right now. This is what we're attempting for, this leg to push back up here to sort of see that the sellers are not at here, not at this level. You can see how many times they were willing to defend it here. And when eventually it broke through, look at that quick little pop, back test, and then moved up higher. This is what we're looking for again here. We're looking for a push through this top area here, a little bit of a back test, and then to target that next level, which will be the 50 level, over to the right over here, which again, you can see, we've seen the sellers, they've been here previously. This one didn't even quite get there. That was a good indication that, you know what, we weren't able to get to the top side here. If you look at this, I mean, the beauty of hindsight, of course. So I'll put this just while we've still got the, oh no, we don't have the arrows on anymore. Yeah, this one here, put the arrows here. This is what we're looking for, a replication of this. But I mean, this is a good example of sort of, not a perfect sort of negative divergence because it didn't make a new high, but a good way that you can use this sort of stotch in the RSI is this area here. You can see that it was coming through here and almost back up to the same high, didn't make a new high, so negative divergence would have been up like this, but it's almost come up to that new high there, and you can see it was coming up on like very low buying pressure. It wasn't sort of like, this wasn't sort of pushing back up here. So back up to the high here, back up to the pressure high there, ready to sort of pop through to the next level. Like sort of this light has here, coming through here. And now we're seeing a new high as it comes up into this area here. So the buying pressure at the same level here and here is actually stronger coming up into this top side here, which makes you think that we do have another little bit of push coming up to the top side. So as I said, this is a beauty of hindsight with it all, because these are always a little bit lagging, but these are a good way that you can use sort of, it's not technically a negative divergence, but a good way that you can use the stotch to sort of basically indicate that the move is a bit of a fail and that it's not quite going to be able to do it, and incoming, bang, downside move through there. Cool. All right. So yes, as I said, above 33 will sort of signify this move up here. There's no real way to sort of tell where, because it was a bit of a chop zone up here. Look, this one here, you can see that as it sort of popped and went through this zone, and it went 27 up to 44. That's almost a $20 wick on that. So, and this is a 4-hour candle. So, this could sort of push out 32. We could be seeing sort of mid 40s here, I would say, sort of potentially, if we do get a bit of a sort of a drive and a sort of push up to the top side here. I mean, we've got to see. DXY is just closing its gap now. It's, you're going to see a little bit of a push up. As I said, there's still a possibility for upside moves on gold. Upside moves on DXY through the session. It did gap up, which obviously favors a little bit more growth throughout the session, but we'll have to sort of wait and see how that sort of plays out. I think, as I said, even if it does, it'll just sort of get gold back down into this little range for a little while longer. We do a little bit of this sort of stuff, but I still think ultimately we've got a little bit more upside. I think that 50 area is due for a touch-up, so I'll be leaning towards the latter, that we will probably break out and then back test and then go up to the top side. But certainly if it comes back down to lower around this 0910, that's, as I said, I would have liked to have bought some down here. So if it comes down here and I get an option for it, this is our breakout level, I'll probably be buying a little bit more, given that if we do get a little bit of a sort of consolidation and a bit of a basing for another run up to the top side. Flip across, we've got Aussie, and this is a big one for today because we've got RBA Tuesday. Boom. Here we go, and we see a little bit of a sort of ascending triangle setting up here. Here, and boom. So this is definitely setting up. We're coming into this big resistance area. Now this area, if you zoom out on this, is a big one. This is like a yearly range that we're testing the top side of here. You know what I mean? Let's, if we go back, where was the start of the year? So down here, start of the year, we actually said it came up here because I absolutely killed it through this area and then got absolutely demolished through this area down here. Actually, probably took some of my worst losses ever actually come down through here. But, I did catch those big moves to the top side on the way back up. So, that's part of the game. You take the wins and you take the losses. But the short here and now is that we're coming up into this area. You can see last time we just got absolutely hammered through this area. So this was what, 66, and when we dropped down to 65, it was a big day to sort of come down there. But look, we're coming up into this high resistance area. We've tested it. That's fine. We didn't sell off. I mean, the next couple of days, it's still grinding and pushing up into it. So we'll look at the previous times that it's come into this area, into this zone. If we drag this across, didn't even quite get there. So, a couple of sell down days, another attempt, and then failed, bang, came down here. This one failed the next day and failed in a massive, massive big way in that. I mean, that was the start of, a couple 100-point drop off. This time we've tapped into it again. We're pushing into it again. We've got the RBA today. RBA is sort of leaning more into the hawkish side of things. So there's a good chance that sort of like, the market are trying to price into some sort of very hawkish talk. And we're sort of seeing this weakness on DXY. Perfect catalyst for Aussie to actually make an attempt to break out of this range. I've said on the weekend as well, if you flip across to the other Aussie chart, which is this one here. This is the other Aussie chart, and if we put it on the weekly, we can see it loves these trap areas. And this is what I was saying over the weekend. If you look at how big these moves from the bases of the traps are, it really has some room to grow. We take out 66, as I mentioned over the weekend, 66.60. That's going to sort of indicate that we're moving back up. I think we've got a 67 possibility, particularly if we hear some strong hawkish talk. We see DXY really sort of break to the downside. I think if you look at Aussie Go right now, we're just pumping into this early start of the session. DXY is sort of off its overnight lows. Aussie's already on its top of its lows. If DXY breaks down here, we're going to see a big run up because you got to look at it on it's like obviously this is the more I do talk more of the technicals in this kind of stuff, but the fundamentals as well with it all are really sort of leaning in Aussie's favour for once or for a while because you've got the Fed. The talk is more about cutting. When are they going to cut? They pushed the cut back from June to September. Well, Aussie RBA aren't talking cuts at all. They're not only not talking cuts, they're like till, at best people are saying maybe early 2025. But they're saying potential up to three rate rises, hikes this year. Like on a fundamental landscape, that just sort of shows that, the US dollar is already at 5.5. Well, so the Fed are at 5.5% on the cash rate. Aussie 4.5. So the Fed have further to potentially drop their rates. You know, Aussie is sort of like basically it's just been underpriced for a long time. We've seen equities have been pumping. We've seen copper ripping. These are the things that users sort of indicators for whether Aussie's going to sort of move a little bit more to the top side. And it hasn't. It's just been lagging and lagging. And now they've got this setup where sort of the RBA's starting to talk a little bit hawkish, starting to say, okay, look, you know what, we're prepared to sort of actually really tackle this thing. At the same time, the Fed's saying, hey, look, we're going to sort of start to relax stuff. That's a perfect storm for Aussie to sort of rip back up, 67, 68, 69 cents. And if they actually do hike, which I don't think they're going to hike today. So my prediction for today is that there's another hold, but I think now that because we've sort of changed our format, we've copied the US a little bit, and we're sort of following tact with that sort of the press conference afterwards. I think that so I'm just going to bank a little bit on this here. So I'll back in 2 seconds. Oh, but so yeah, my prediction for today is that we're following the sort of the US thing now, so we'll have the press conference after it. I'm tipping a hold, but I'm ticking some sort of some wording in it that they'll sort of be saying that look, obviously the generic, we will be data dependent and we will sort of closely monitor it. Underlying thing saying if we get CPI high again, we are definitely strongly considering a hike. So that is really going to sort of drive Aussie up higher. I think sort of we've got the potential today to get a breakout up to this sort of 67 area. Of course, this could obviously fail, and we could sort of go, we'll come back down over here. But everything, the technicals and also the fundamentals are lining up for Aussie to move a little bit higher. So again, if we see DXY really sort of crumble and come down, if we see the RBA talk more hawkish, those two things combined will really sort of give us some strong upside potential on Aussie in the short term, and also the medium term as well, probably. Copper. So copper, this is playing out pretty much as we expected, and they came right back into this zone that we'd had marked out. Look, as I said, copper loves to do this. If you look at copper and actually sort of a lot of the times it does these trends, it does these sort of like technical breakdown areas, and then it flies back into life. So you don't jump on copper when you see these first breaks here, particularly when you're coming into this higher time frame support areas. Really, this is just a back test. We're moving back up to sort of test here to sort of go on with the party. Target's still up around this, 68. Oh, 68. Too many charts here. That's Aussie on the 68s. This is the area, the 480s to 490s is the area that we're looking at for copper. Yeah, so there's a price target. That's the area that we're looking at for copper. Obviously, we need to take out the previous highs just here, but I think sort of, as I said, look, as I put these stops here, I imagine there's going to be some sort of extra energy, sitting here, which can fuel the fire to sort of move it up to the top side over there. This is another thing that makes you think that Aussie's got a bit of a way to go because you can just see this run on copper. I think once we get up here, once we hit the price target, I imagine a little bit of a deeper sort of pullback. But I think we're so close to it now. We've had such an amazing run with it. I think there's definitely sort of some strong upside potential before this one sort of has a proper cool off. So we'll have to sort of wait and see on that one. And China flying back into action. Well, somewhat. Came right down here. I mean, they had that beautiful drop off coming through this area here. As I said, I'm not a big fan of these sort of carry through. I don't think this is really a super significant setup of a thing. It just, the lines just line up basically. For me, I wouldn't be like, okay, here's the back test of this area. I don't think this is significant enough to hold up, but it just seems to have sort of worked in well. The horizontal, we saw the sellers have been here previously before this big area. This is actually a big area because this 720 area, although it was sort of scratched up here a little bit higher, you can see this is the area that they had that screaming breakout a couple of weeks back. So if we look at this here, this was the area that sort of really has played its part most recently as quite a significant swing. And this is what I say, like you look at these areas and you go, okay, where is the market valued this? And it's valued it in a big way. Once they let it go from here, we had a massive move to the top side. It tried to defend it one time here, and once it let it go, massive move to the downside. It's obviously defending it again over here. A break back above here, significant, and you can come back up here, but I think you've still got this level just above you at 726, which will sort of prove some issues. Alternatively, if we do sort of see a little bit more of a chill, we are a little bit overbought. This is on the 4 hour. I think that this area holds, and I think we sort of start to, China, as we can see, it loves to grind, moves into a zone, and it just grinds for ages. So we could just sort of look at it and say, okay, look, where's it going to play between now? We can see sort of around this area previously. We could almost just move this down a little bit here because we can see these are the lower areas. So supported here, supported here, supported here, 3 touches through this area. We know that's where the buyers are sitting now. So I would say that, we're probably more looking at something to this effect. I think this area will hold. I think we'll come back down and then sort of, move along down here before we ultimately continue this to come down and tackle this area over here. The sort of weekly supports, which we know are super strong, and that's a major, major breakout. If we break and hold underneath this area, we're really going to see a meltdown on it. So, China, as I said, it loves to grind before it makes its moves, but when it makes its moves, they're quite significant. So certainly something to watch there. But this also leads into some potential sort of Aussie strength moving forward as well. All right, that's it from me.